Welcome to the Lion's Share podcast, where we break down today's most impactful research and bring fresh insights from the academic frontier straight to you.
Today, we're tackling something really fundamental for anyone involved in the platform economy. It's sort of the shadow side of success.
Yeah, we're looking at platform exploitation. It's this phenomenon where the very best service providers think nurses, mechanics, dog walkers, the ones who build your platform's reputation.
They end up leaving, and worse, they take your most valuable repeat customers with them off platform.
It's a huge issue. And it's not just passive disintermediation. This is active. It's opportunistic. We're basing our discussion today on a really insightful 2022 paper in the Journal of Marketing by Zhou and colleagues. They look specifically at pure labor service platforms.
Right. So our goal here for you, our DBA and PhD audience, is to really unpack the rigor of this paper. We want to synthesize its findings, but focus squarely on the marketing strategy implications. How do you manage agent loyalty when your best assets are also your biggest flight risk?
Okay, let's start with the basics. Definitions matter here. What exactly is platform exploitation according to this research?
Good point. It's not just leaving the platform. The authors define it very specifically as opportunistic misuse. Agents knowingly breaking the rules.
Rules like sharing contact info, right? Or booking follow-up appointments directly, things explicitly forbidden in the terms of service.
Exactly. And the primary driver, it's almost always financial, dodging that platform commission.
Which can be pretty hefty. The paper mentions ranges of 15% to 30%. Avoiding that adds up quickly, especially for higher value services.
Definitely. And the paper argues this risk is particularly high for what they term pure labor service platforms. So think about platforms connecting you with, say, in-home healthcare providers, specialized tutors, maybe complex repair technicians.
Right. Unlike something like Airbnb or Uber, where the platform has some control over a physical asset, here the value is almost entirely tied to the individual agent's skill. And crucially, the service often requires significant personal interaction.
And that interaction is key, isn't it? It builds trust, direct personal trust between the customer and the agent.
Precisely. And as that dyadic trust grows, the platform's original value proposition, acting as a guarantor, reducing uncertainty, starts to feel less essential to both parties.
This brings us to the theoretical underpinnings. The authors lean on two core theories here.
Yeah. First is agency theory. Pretty standard framework. The agent, acting in their own self-interest, starts to weigh the platform fee against the ongoing benefits. And often, especially after the initial match is made, that fee looks excessive.
They start thinking, what am I really paying this 20% for now? I found the customer, they like me, I like them.
Exactly. And the second theory provides the how. Transaction cost economics, or TCE. Initially, the platform lowers search costs, vets providers, offers insurance, it manages the transaction costs and uncertainties.
It acts as that formal institution providing security.
Right. But TCE also tells us that informal mechanisms, like trust, can substitute for formal ones. Once the customer and agent have built that strong relationship, that personal trust takes over. It reduces the perceived risk.
So the platform, which facilitated the trust building in the first place, ironically makes itself less necessary. It essentially becomes a very, very expensive lead generator for its best agents.
A tough spot for platforms. To dig into how common this really is, the researchers started with qualitative work. Study 1 used a theories in use approach.
Which means interviews, right? Getting the real story from the ground up. In this case, nurses, patients, and platform managers in a Chinese in-home healthcare setting. And the findings were, frankly, pretty alarming. They found exploitation was incredibly pervasive. Get this. 80% of the nurses interviewed admitted to doing it, 80%. And 2/3 of the patients, 67%, admitted they'd gone along with it, even with clear rules against it.
And the managers, they weren't naive about it. They estimated losing maybe 3 to 4 times the profit they were actually making because of this defection.
And that's not just the lost commission on those specific transactions, is it? It's the churn. Constantly having to acquire new customers and new high-quality agents to replace the ones who leave. It's a potentially crippling cost structure.
Absolutely. Retention is paramount. So this qualitative work set the stage for Study 2, the quantitative analysis. They used a hazard model on a large data set over 17,000 transactions.
Trying to predict the likelihood of defection over time.
Exactly. And they tested those core ideas. First, relationship strength. They measured this using prior dyadic transactions, basically. How many times the same customer had booked the same agent through the platform.
And the result?
Just as the theories predicted. As prior interactions went up, the customer's likelihood of returning to the platform went down. and the agent's frequency of using the platform also decreased.
So more interaction, more trust, less need for the platform, clean validation of that TCE mechanism.
Yep. And they also looked at agent tenure, how long the agent had been on the platform.
And longer-serving agents defected more. That makes intuitive sense. They know the ropes.
Precisely. They've likely built a base of regulars. They understand the system, maybe feel less dependent on the platform for new leads.
Okay, let's pause here. A question for you, thinking about marketing implications. How does this specific definition of platform exploitation, focusing on the opportunistic, rule-breaking aspect, help us understand the unique risks here compared to, say, an asset-based platform?
That's a great question. I think the opportunistic framing is crucial. On Airbnb, the platform retains significant control. The booking system, the reviews, the payment processing, the asset itself isn't walking away. But with pure labor, the agent is the asset.
And that asset is portable.
Exactly. Exploitation highlights that the agent is actively leveraging the trust built via the platform to then circumvent the platform's rules and revenue model. It's a direct attack on the platform's ROI for customer and agent acquisition in a way that's much harder to defend against than in asset-heavy models, which leads us neatly into maybe the most fascinating finding, this whole quality paradox. Yes, the double-edged sword. This was a hypothesis too. They looked at agent quality and its effect on retention.
And it wasn't linear. It was that classic inverted U-shape.
Right. So really low-quality agents. Customers leave, obviously. They're dissatisfied. No surprise there. As quality improves, retention initially goes up. Customers value the good service. The platform looks good.
But then,
after a certain point, with the highest quality agents, customer retention on the platform starts to decrease again. Customers are more likely to follow these top-tier agents off-platform.
so the very quality the platform needs to attract and retain customers initially becomes the catalyst for losing them later on.
That's the paradox. High quality builds trust faster, makes the agent more desirable for a direct relationship, and makes the perceived value of the platform's intermediation seem lower. The best agents become the biggest flight risks.
That's a really tough balancing act for managers. You need quality for growth, but that same quality accelerates defection.
And it gets worse when you factor in the moderators. Price, for instance. The analysis showed that all these negative effects from prior transactions, high quality agent tenure, they get stronger at higher price points.
Which makes perfect sense from the agent's perspective, right? Agency theory again.
Absolutely. Saving 20% on a $20 service is one thing. Saving 20% on a $500 service, that's a much bigger incentive for both the agent and the customer to find a way around the platform fee.
Okay, this raises a practical question then. We see higher prices driving defection. If you're launching a new platform, maybe in a competitive field needing high-quality agents, what kind of strategic pricing bind does this put you in?
It's a massive catch-22. You need to signal quality, cover costs like vetting and insurance, which often means charging a decent commission.
Right.
But that higher commission immediately increases the incentive for your bust, most needed agents to leave quickly, potentially taking your early anchor customers with them. You price too low, you can't sustain the business or signal quality. You price too high, you accelerate the very exploitation you need to prevent. It's incredibly tricky.
Beyond price, they also looked at agent-side opportunities, didn't they? Showing it's not just motive, but also strategic calculation.
Yes, hypotheses 8 and 9. They found agents were slower to return to the platform, suggesting they were busy off-platform when their current on-platform customer base had more repeat customers.
Makes sense. Easier to convert existing relationships.
And also when their current customers were more proximal geographically close.
Efficiency. Less travel time, easier to manage direct relationships. So agents are actively identifying and prioritizing the customers who offer the best off-platform potential.
It certainly looks that way. It's opportunistic and strategic.
Okay, so the problem is clear. The drivers are identified. Did the research offer any solutions? Study 3 looked at interventions, I believe.
It did. They shifted context to a dog-walking platform scenario, likely to test generalizability, and explored two main types of interventions.
What were they?
First, a financial mechanism, specifically a sliding scale commission fee. The more on-platform jobs an agent completed per week, the lower their commission rate became.
Kind of rewarding loyalty and volume directly through price.
Right.
And did it work?
Yes. Crucially, the findings showed this sliding scale fee mitigated the defection intentions specifically driven by high relationship quality. It directly tackled that core issue we discussed.
Interesting. And the second intervention, that was a non-financial mechanism. focusing on service agent community building, things like offering status markers, badges, perhaps social events or forums for agents, building a sense of belonging to the platform itself. And how did that perform?
It also worked, but differently. Community building seemed to reduce off-platform intentions more generally, across the board, boosting overall loyalty regardless of the specific customer relationship quality.
Okay, let's unpack that difference. Why would the sliding scale be so effective against the high relationship quality problem, specifically, while community building gave more of a general lift?
Well, think back to the theories. When relationship quality is high, the primary driver for defection is often that financial incentive avoiding the fee, agency theory. The sliding scale directly counters that specific calculation. It makes staying on platform more financially viable precisely when the temptation to leave is strongest.
It reduces the relative gain from going off platform.
Exactly. Community building, on the other hand, works on a different level. It builds effective commitment, social ties, maybe switching costs related to status or belonging. It enhances the agent's loyalty to the platform as an institution, which is beneficial overall, but doesn't target that specific financial tipping point triggered by a high-trust customer relationship quite as directly.
Got it. So financial tools for financial problems, social tools for broader loyalty. Makes sense. Let's pivot then to the big picture takeaways for our audience, the marketing scholars and practitioners listening. Okay, first big one. Segmented retention is absolutely critical. A one-size-fits-all commission structure is clearly suboptimal. Platforms need to identify those high-quality, high-tenure, high-relationship agents and design specific, likely dynamic incentives to keep them engaged on the platform. You can't treat your stars the same way you treat newcomers. Precisely. Second takeaway. Platforms need to constantly focus on customer value, but specifically on value propositions that the agent cannot easily replicate off-platform. This means doubling down on things like strong guarantees, insurance, sophisticated scheduling tools, maybe unique platform features that benefit repeat users, make the platform sticky beyond just the initial matchmaking, provide ongoing, unique value, yes, especially for those high-value, repeat-use services most vulnerable to defection. Third takeaway, recognize the evolving nature of the agent-platform relationship. It starts codependent, but can quickly become asymmetric as the agent builds their own customer base and reputation. So the platform needs to proactively build institutional loyalty.
Exactly. Through those non-financial mechanisms like community, status, and support, creating reasons for agents to stay embedded even when they could technically leave, foster genuine platform loyalty, not just transactional reliance.
Now, a critical question about generalizability. This research, particularly the empirical work, was done using data from a platform in China. How might cultural differences, maybe around trust or reliance on formal institutions, affect how these findings apply in, say, North America or Europe?
That's a really important limitation to consider. The core dynamic personal service building trust that can substitute for formal guarantees is likely universal. However, the threshold at which people feel comfortable relying solely on informal trust might vary.
How so?
Well, you can argue that in contexts with perhaps stronger traditions of legal recourse, more ingrained use of formal contracts and insurance for everyday services, the baseline reliance on the platform's formal protections might be higher.
So it might take more trust or a bigger financial incentive to convince a customer or agent to bypass the platform's safety net in those markets.
Potentially. The tipping point for defection might be different. It doesn't invalidate the core mechanism, but it suggests the magnitude and speed of exploitation could be culturally moderated. It needs careful consideration when applying these findings elsewhere.
Okay, one last area to probe the longer-term consequences. The paper focuses on the immediate costs, lost commissions, acquisition costs. But what about the non-financial ripple effects of platform exploitation? Specifically, what happens to the quality of the customer pool left behind on the platform? Now you're touching on a potential market for lemons problem, adapted to the customer side. Think about it. If the best agents are selectively poaching the best customers, the reliable, high-volume, easy-to-serve ones who does that leave on the platform, the lemons, the more difficult, demanding, maybe riskier customers that the agents didn't want to take off platform.
Exactly. Over time, if exploitation is rampant, the platform could suffer from adverse selection. The average quality of its remaining customer pool might decline.
And that would surely impact the remaining good agents, wouldn't it? Demoralize them, maybe make them more likely to leave.
It could absolutely create a negative feedback loop. A lower quality customer pool makes the platform less attractive for high quality agents, accelerating their departure, further degrading the pool. It's a potential long-term threat to the platform's entire value proposition and reputation.
Yeah, okay, so wrapping this up. We've seen how platform exploitation is this really opportunistic risk, deeply rooted in trust dynamics and financial incentives. Quality, ironically, is a double-edged sword, and managing this requires a sophisticated mix of financial and non-financial levers.
It really highlights the fragility of the pure labor platform model, if not managed proactively.
Which brings us to a final provocative thought for you to consider. This research basically shows platforms acting effectively as sophisticated prospecting tools for their best agents, whose loyalty is often temporary and transactional. Given that the platform creates the very relationship that can undermine it, how can platforms really justify that ongoing commission, especially for long-term, high-trust agent-customer pairs?
It's the core tension, isn't it?
It really is. Could the future model need to shift fundamentally, maybe away from per-transaction fees for established relationships towards something like, I don't know, a subscription fee paid by the agent? Paying for access to the platform's new leads, its tools, its insurance umbrella, but not penalizing them for the very loyalty the platform helped foster. Could that realign incentives?
That's certainly a direction worth exploring. Radically rethinking the revenue model based on the relationship life cycle.
Something to chew on. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for tuning into the Lion's Share podcast. If you enjoyed today's discussion, share it with a friend and join us next time for more ideas worth talking about. We'll see you next time.